Good morning. Easter to Pentecost. What changed? May 22nd, day 40. We're getting close to coming together next Sunday, the 24th. Service starts at 10:30, so arrive a few minutes early because we're going to have a sanitation station set up at the front door where our hands will be sanitized and we can help people to be seated properly, to be socially distant. So it might take us a little longer to get in and out of the auditorium, but that's just part of the price we have to pay in these days of the COVID-19 crisis. So come and be excited, be prepared for God to give us a rich blessing for this next Sunday. You know, sometimes I think it's real good for us to remember from whence we have come. I remember one of the last times I saw my grandmother on my mom's side of the family. She lived in Kentucky and she flew out to spend some time with us to go on vacation with us. And when she came out to California, she flew in one of them brand spanking new big fancy jumbo 747 jets. They were brand new in those days. They had just finished rebuilding some of the terminals at the airport to make them tall enough to be able to receive those planes. And back in those days, you could still go to the terminal and at the gate there and wait for your party to get off the plane. And I was standing there watching for my granny, and here she comes, this little old thin wisp of a woman, full of vim and vinegar. She comes bounding off of that plane talking about what a great flight it was, how comfortable she was in that big old jet, the many people she got to talk to. I bet she wore some folks out. But we left and we went on to go to vacation together. And we went up to Sequoia National Park. Now, they had those cabins back in those days right in amongst the giant redwoods. And so you could rent one of those pretty inexpensively. And they had a patio porch out there that was covered and had a rail around it. And on there they had a picnic table where you could eat your meals. And there was a cast iron wood burning stove. And my granny grew up cooking on one of those. That's what she learned to cook on. And so we ate like kings that week. I mean, she made some meals you would not believe. Fresh bread, roast. I mean, we ate like kings. Well, one day, she made some pies. I can still smell them. And there they were sitting up on that rail, just cooling off before we could take them and eat them. And you know me, I had my eye on one in particular, and I was watching it. Well, the sun was starting to go down, and my dad said, "Hey, I think the bears are coming." Well, about time he said that, I heard this bang, whoosh, whoosh, bang. What happened? It was my granny coming out of the cabin, fast as that little old lady could go, picking up her pies and taking them back in the cabin and slamming the door shut. Before I could move or think, there she was, and there she'd gone, and that was it. I asked her, I go, what's the problem? She goes, "Those bears ain't going to get my pie." Sounds like the voice of experience of leaving something out too long, doesn't it? She was hilarious. And I got to talking with her and telling her how much fun I had being with her. My mom pulled me aside a little while later and told me another story about my granny. She goes, "Do you recognize that your granny first went to Kentucky in the late 1800s as a baby in the back of a Conestoga wagon going through the Cumberland Gap, the place that Daniel Boone opened up so people could move to Kentucky. And then one of the last times she traveled, she flew on one of those giant jumbo jets. What a life. She had come from a covered wagon to a jumbo jet in one lifetime. I was amazed by that. Well, some years later, I got to be old enough to get a driver's license. And at 16, that's a big thing. And I didn't have a car, but that didn't matter. Dad let me drive. But I had my driver's license. Well, it wasn't too long after that. Actually, it was about 2 years after that that my dad passed away. Well, my mom didn't drive. She got around by people giving her rides. And one day I sat down with my mom and I said, "Why is it you don't drive?" And she told me this story. As a young girl, her dad got her up in the seat of their Model T Ford 10 Lizzie. Maximum speed about 45 miles an hour. And she said, "I got up in that car and started driving, and I got so scared I drove straight into a cornfield." She never drove after that. She was so traumatized. This woman could do anything but drive a car. And I thought, that's the stock I come from. That's the place I come from. People are who they are from the experiences they've had. But I've watched them grow. Now, as Christians today, we need to sometimes take a little time to remember just how far we've come. Remember when you first came to faith in Jesus? Paul reminds us of that as he writes to the church at Ephesus. And I want you to see what he wanted them to remember, because it's akin to what I want you to remember. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1, 2, and 3. Ephesians 2, 1 through 3. "And you were dead in your trespasses and sins, in which you previously walked according to the ways of this world, according to the ruler who exercises authority over the lower heavens, the spirit now working in the disobedient. We too all previously lived among them in our fleshly desires, carrying out the inclinations of our flesh and thoughts. And we were by nature children under wrath, as the others were also." Ephesians 2, 1 through 3. Remember when you were a child of wrath? Remember when you were dead in your trespasses and sins? Remember when you walked in the ways of the world, subject to the evil ruler of this world, who now works in the lives of people that are disobedient today? We all came from that, didn't we? We lived carrying out the inclinations of our flesh. And if that's true, why are we so quick to judge those still stuck in that condition? Why are we so impatient with those still stuck in a life of a child of wrath? I think since we've been forgiven so much, that we should cut them some slack too. Because not too long ago, we were all just like them. Jesus has great compassion for sinners. He showed it when he walked the earth. He's shown it to you and me. Shouldn't we also feel the same way? Do you remember from whence you have come? Do you remember that except for the grace of God that came into your life when you placed your faith in Jesus, that you would be in the exact same place, in the exact same old rut? Your life would be ruled by the power of darkness, the chains of sin, and the inclinations of your flesh. Here's what I want you to do. Take some time today to remember with humility and say thank you to the Lord for having brought you so far. And the next time you see someone who is still stuck in the stink of their sin, cut them some compassion and love from Jesus. You have extra. Because that is what they desperately need if they're ever going to have any hope of making it out of their mess. Remember, your mess was as bad or worse than theirs. Instead of judging them for their mess, give them the love of Jesus. That forgiving, caring, compassionate love that drew us to Christ, it will draw others to Christ. As Jesus walked the roads in his day, he walked among the sinners and really made the religious people of his day upset, didn't he? I think we too should walk today with sinners in our day in search of the smile of Jesus, because he knows we're reaching out to those that are still stuck in sin, and he calls us to do that. And so we seek the smile of Jesus means more to us than the approval of religious, hypocritical church people. Whose approval do you seek? I want the smile of Jesus, don't you? Go love a sinner. You don't love their stink. You don't love their sin. You don't even condone it. You just love the person. Care for them the way Jesus cared for you, that they too might make it out of the rut they're stuck in. I'm looking forward to seeing you next Sunday. I hope all of you can be there. We're going to have a great service with music and a surprise that you're not expecting, and then also the Lord's Supper at the end of the service. So come and be a part of this great time. Come a little early and come in and enjoy yourself. God will be good to us in that place. I will see you then.